Hi, I'm Justin with Blender Frenzy, and here's something you may not have known about me.
Frenzy.
Happy New Year to all you Blender friends out there. I truly hope your 2026 is filled with joy and blessings for you and all your families. I certainly hope it will be better than my 2025 was. Anyway, today's video is about something that is fairly bittersweet for me. Take a look. Okay, first time walking up to the Blender studio. Blender headquarters in Amsterdam. I'm such a tourist noob. Ta-da!
So, want me to take a picture right on the front door underneath the logo?
Yes, of course. That's right. Last August, I visited the Blender headquarters in Amsterdam, and it was such a dream come true. I'll get to why it was bittersweet in just a moment, but let me tell you, last year was very, very difficult for me. However, being able to physically visit the Blender building and meet the official Blender developers and artists in person was so cool, and definitely a much needed oasis in the midst of the driest desert of my 2025. So here's the story. Last August, I got the privilege of traveling to England because a buddy of mine was getting married and my girlfriend and I were invited to the wedding. And that in itself was an amazing experience because I've never been to England before. And after the wedding, we also took time to tour London for a couple of days because you got to tour London. I mean, it's you're in England. So I got to see all of the iconic historical sites, like the Shakespeare Theatre and the Palace, where we got to see the changing of the guard in action. So that was great. London was really cool. But since I was now so close to Amsterdam, at least much closer than where I live in the States, it was just a no-brainer that I had to go visit Blender. And it was probably the only chance I would be able to get in the foreseeable future. So after London, we headed straight to Amsterdam on a train, and I was so hyped. The next morning, when we left the hotel, I tried hard to contain my excitement. Every minute leading up to our arrival, I became more and more nervous. We arrived a little bit early because Blender has a 3-hour limited window for visitors, and according to the website, there was nothing saying that we needed a reservation, so we just rocked up, and we were a little bit early. Ta-da! So my girlfriend snapped a few excited pictures of me celebrating right in front of the Blender building, because what else are you going to do? I mean, you're in front of the Blender building. Of course you're going to celebrate. But because we were early, we left for a little bit to make a quick stop elsewhere and bide our time, and then we returned when the doors opened for the guests. So we went up to the doors, we knocked or rang, I can't remember, and we were greeted by the smiling face of a very cheerful woman named Trisha. And she was actually our tour guide for the whole thing, and she was so super sweet and kind and patient with us for the entire time. So she let us in, and we went to the first stop, which was the front desk, where all of the guests have the opportunity to adorn the front of the front desk with ugly magnets from their hometown or country or wherever they're from. This is also something they say on their website, to bring a gift of an ugly magnet instead of alcohol or sweets or something else. And I knew this well in advance before I even went to Europe because I watched a video, a YouTube virtual tour that Ton did of Blender back in the day. However, I almost forgot about this. But thankfully, I remembered at the very last minute, and when I got to the airport that I flew out of, it had a gift shop of magnets, and thankfully it was open. So when my family dropped me off, I just sprinted toward the gift shop and I found the perfect magnet. So now Trisha is there, and she helped me to find the right spot to add mine to the elaborate mosaic of magnets that were on the front desk. So now mine is somewhere on there, but I'm just gonna let you guess which one it is. Okay, so then it was tour time. And it was so much more than I was expecting. According to the website, it was labeled as a quick 5-minute tour for those that just showed up unannounced like we did. So we weren't expecting too much. But Trisha took us through the entire place and we got to see everything, and she was so patient and gave us such a welcoming and detailed experience, which lasted much longer than 5 minutes. Side note though, that may not happen with everyone. So if you visit, don't expect more than 5 minutes because, well, that's what the website says. Plus the team is really busy making Blender better and probably just don't have time to hang out a lot. But we could tell that Trisha was so proud of Blender and what it stands for and everything that they've accomplished. And we were told that it was okay to take pictures. Now we couldn't take video, and the reason for that is because there might be confusion among individuals about being part of conversations that they never intended to be if someone's like filming in the background, which makes perfect sense to me. Like I said, this is their work day, and of course they are focused on their work. But anyway, as we walked through the halls, we stopped at a number of different shelves and display cases exhibiting all sorts of icons and characters and paraphernalia from various Blender projects and creations from the past. And one of my favorites, there was this entire case of Blender's historical relics dating way back from its beginnings, with nostalgic old tech, CDs, CD cases, retail boxes, and that was super cool to see. Then of course, I just had to get a photo standing next to the world's largest Blender logo. Okay, so I don't actually know if it's the world's largest Blender logo, but it certainly was the largest I've seen. Okay, so earlier I'd mentioned that this experience was bittersweet. And that is because despite this being such a dream come true, unfortunately, I have really bad timing and apparently picked the week that Ton and Francesco were out of the country at the SIGGRAPH conference in Vancouver. So I was really bummed about this, not only because they weren't there when I visited, but because I know that Ton is stepping down from his role at Blender, and this would be the only time that I had to meet him in person before that happens. So Ton, if you ever see this, just know you are an absolute legend, and I want to thank you so much for what you have built, not only with Blender, but with the entire Blender community and atmosphere. Blender is truly one of a kind, and it's all because of the strong vision that you had for it from the beginning. So I wish I could have met you in person, but since I didn't, I at least wanted to express my gratitude here. So thank you so much. And to Francesco, thank you so much for assuming the role in Ton's place. We are definitely in good hands with you at the helm, taking Blender into the future. But let's get back to the sweetness because there is a lot of it. Not everyone was at SIGGRAPH, thankfully, and the first person I got to chat with was Arnd. Arnd is the IT, hardware, and infrastructure guy. He was super chill and also really kind. He wasn't in any hurry and was happy to take his time chatting with me about all sorts of stuff. He talked about his role at Blender and managing the servers. We also somehow got onto the topic of AI and what that means for the future of 3D and the role of creative artists, developers, and all sorts of different areas of life. So thank you, Arnd, for the great conversation. It was a pleasure. And the next person I got the pleasure to meet was someone who I know you all know, the face of Blender today, the one, the only, Pablo Vasquez. Pablo, if you're watching this, I want to thank you so much for the time you took out of your busy day to chat with me. And not only that, but I felt like you being there was a very nice offset to Ton and Francesco's absence. You were definitely someone I was really hoping to meet, and if you hadn't been there, the bitterness would have been much greater. So that was awesome, thank you. But Pablo was super cool, and we talked about the VSE as I told him that I use Blender primarily for video editing and VFX. And I expressed my thankfulness that Blender's continuing development on VSE going into the future and they're not dropping it. And he agreed, and he spoke about the storyboarding workflow, which was upcoming then. Now it's out in Blender 5.0, but back then it hadn't been out yet. And I hadn't even heard about this until he had explained it to me, even though I know that it was probably in the works for some time. I just never looked into it. So that was pretty cool. And of course, I had to snap a picture with him, and then I finally let him get back to work. So we continued the tour of the building, and we got a glimpse of the server room, which it looks like they might be doing something different with that now. Blender Heads episode 11 just came out a few days ago, explaining something about the servers and how they're changing that, so I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, we're walking the halls, and we're also talking about all the pictures that were on the walls, and there were a lot of them. But one of my favorite parts was the stairwell filled with pictures of all of the splash screens and the different Blender versions from the start until now. So as you go down the staircase, you can see Blender, the first Blender version, and then all the way up until, well, the current Blender version at the time. And that was really cool. Anyway, we continued the tour, popping into each of the rooms to say hi. Everyone was hard at work and most people were super focused, so we tried hard not to interrupt those people. And okay, so I also at this time feel like I need to take a moment for a quick apology and explain something. So, I'm really bad at remembering names in general, but I'm even worse at remembering names when I'm really nervous. And let me tell you, I tried my best to remain calm, cool, and collected when I was there, but inside I was a nervous wreck. Imagine if you were just meeting some of your favorite celebrities or longtime heroes in person for the first time. That's how it felt to me. So in all honesty, the only person's name I remembered was Pablo's, because we see him fairly often in the online space. You know, he is the face of Blender today. But everyone else's name I had to look up later online, like Arnd. Sorry, Arnd. It was a great conversation, but I still had to look your name up because I just couldn't remember it. And I know I'm still missing some people's names that I've forgotten. Even now, I don't remember. So please accept my apology if I didn't remember your name. It's not because you're unimportant. It's just that my memory capacity was fairly hindered at the time. Okay, so having said that, I do remember Bastien. I remember Falk, and I think maybe Habib. I could be wrong about that one. But I just want to again say thank you to all those people for letting us interrupt. Okay, but now the last thing I want to end on is one of the sweetest highlights of my visit that day. So, as I was talking to Falk about my use of Blender and the VSC and video effects, I mentioned that I have a YouTube channel, and he actually recognized me and correctly remembered that my channel was called Blender Frenzy. You guys, at the time of this recording, I have a tiny YouTube channel, so I was not expecting anyone at Blender to recognize me in any way, which is why I only introduced myself as Justin and not Blender Frenzy, because I didn't think anyone would even know or care. But much to my surprise, Falk did know, and he even complimented me on how detailed I covered the VSC on my channel. So, needless to say, I was super elated. Thank you, Falk, for making my day and my visit so special there that day. And that's it. That was my Blender HQ experience. It was so awesome. Now to wrap up all this rambling with final thank yous. I know I'm probably overdoing the thank yous, but I'm so filled with gratitude and Thanksgiving. So thank you to Trisha for the warm welcome, the tour, and your kind patience with us through the whole thing. And thank you to the developers and the creators that took time to greet us and talk to us. But also thank you to all the developers who couldn't greet us due to being focused on making Blender better, because that certainly is the priority. And finally, thank you to Ton, Francesco, and the entirety of Blender for making all of this possible. May 2026 be the best year ever for you all. God bless and Happy New Year.